Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Soul Shift Messages. If you found your way here, trust there's something in this message for you. Understand this space is about growth, truth, and transformation. We don't bypass here, we don't sugarcoat, and not every message will feel comfortable, but it will be honest. I speak in flow, and sometimes that includes cussing. It's just part of how the messages come through. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own discernment above all else. Take a deep breath, and let's begin. If you are new here, please know at this time I create content based on a weekly topic in 3 parts. Part 1 focuses on what needs to be revealed. Part 2 focuses on what needs to be understood, often takes a deeper dive, looks at the underlying mechanisms. And Part 3 focuses on what needs to be done. What action do we need to take to embody whatever we happen to be discussing that week? So I say all of that to say this is going to be Part 3 for this week's topic, which means you'll find all available links to all parts below in the description box. And that way, no matter what video you click on, where you come in, you can always find what you need and progress through the series however you see fit or don't. So this week's topic is intimacy, and I am calling this message How to Live in a Way that Allows Intimacy to Exist. Also, just want to note here, the sun keeps dipping in and out of the clouds, so fingers crossed for this lighting. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm just going to roll with it. There's a lot to cover, so if you're watching the video and it fluctuates, we gonna roll with it. All right. Also, they want me to add a caveat. I'm going to do something similar that I did for part 3 of the love series that I recently wrapped up. So there is benefit in listening to this full message. Again, I'll leave that up to you how far you want to take it. And what I will do is at the end, I will give you a little cheat sheet of like how to really get started. They're saying there's a lot of benefit to taking this in. Some of you, they want you to listen to the whole video because they're saying there's going to be moments, you may have experiences later on where they're going to actually like have you recall parts of this video that I talk about, like tactics, action to take when it's actually appropriate for your situation. That is pretty cool. So your guidance is listen to the whole thing. I'll give you a more condensed, easier way to get started. And then again, some of you, they really are. It's not going to be for everyone. They're saying you'll know when you know, but they're going to have you recall parts of this video when it's applicable for you. Pretty sweet. All right, let's get it. All right. Intimacy is not something you understand. It is something you practice. Many people spend years learning about relationships, attachment styles, communication, boundaries, vulnerability, emotional intelligence, healing, and self-awareness. All of this can be valuable, but understanding intimacy is not the same as living it. At some point, learning must become action. The question is no longer, what is intimacy? The question becomes, how do I live in a way that allows intimacy to exist? This is where the real work begins. Intimacy is a skill you build through repetition. Intimacy is not automatic. and it is not accidental. It is a skill developed through repeated behavior. You do not become intimate by insight alone. You become intimate by practicing the actions that create intimacy. Why this matters for intimacy. Without repetition, insight stays abstract. The nervous system defaults to protection under stress, and relationships collapse back into old patterns. If you're not building new skills, if you are not practicing new actions, you will default back to your previous baseline behavior. I know in a lot of ways we try not to, we've talked about not putting things so simple. They're saying this is not one of those things. This is where it is simple. All right? If you're not trying to embody the new, you are going to default to the old, whether you like it or not. And some of you know the old does not serve you anymore. Intimacy only becomes stable when behavior becomes consistent under emotional pressure. Practice intimacy daily. Intentionally train telling the truth in small moments. This could be saying, I actually don't agree with that, instead of nodding along. Listen without interrupting, even when you disagree. Staying present during discomfort, not checking your phone during a tense conversation or feeling intense emotions. Expressing needs clearly instead of indirectly. For example, saying, I need support right now, instead of hinting. Asking real questions instead of assuming. For example, what did you mean by that? Repairing misunderstandings quickly. For example, I think that came across wrong. Let me rephrase. And choosing honesty over impression management. For example, admitting I'm not okay today instead of pretending. Do not try to master everything at once. Choose one behavior and repeat it until it becomes natural. Intimacy is built through repetition, not realization. And babies, they're just saying practice makes perfect. No one is asking you to do this perfectly. And nobody's even telling you to do this. They want to be clear. This is your invitation to do so if you want it. And I'm hearing some of you really want this. So again, they're just saying you don't have to be perfect. They don't want you to focus on being perfect with this. They want you to focus on improvement. As they want me to say it again, I've said it in past videos. It starts with the first time you do something different, right? Take one of the examples that I used, right? Let me just pick one, right? Saying, I need support right now. Telling people what you need. Being honest with that. Putting yourself out there. Be courageous enough. I know it's a vulnerable thing to do, but they're saying you will, if you get that first one underway and you can get another one underway, they're just saying, babies, you will see. This is where, if you watched the previous videos, this is where your fast feedback is coming in with your experience. If you start practicing this and the more consistent you get at practicing this, that's your fast feedback. You are going to see very quickly who can meet you in this energy, like who can actually reciprocate this and who cannot. That is your fast feedback. That is going to really start showing you who is capable and willing of what, so you can make informed based decisions. All right, let's keep it moving. Measure intimacy by what you do, not what you feel. Feelings are unstable. They rise and fall regardless of whether intimacy is increasing or decreasing. If you rely on feelings, you will misread relationships. This is why we need clearer perception. This is why we need to start removing these distortions. So why this matters for intimacy. Emotional states can mask behavior. You can feel close while acting avoidant. You can feel distant while still being fully engaged. And you can feel love while not actually being present. So intimacy cannot be measured internally alone. It must be observed behaviorally. Practice behavioral awareness. Replace emotional evaluation with behavioral evaluation. Instead of asking, do I feel close? Ask, did I show up honestly today? Did I withdraw or stay present? Did I communicate clearly or avoid it? Did I create connection or distance through my actions? At the end of each day, where did I move toward intimacy? Where did I move away from it? What will I do differently tomorrow? For example, if you feel disconnected after a conversation, don't assume the relationship is failing. Review whether you stayed engaged or mentally checked out halfway through. All right, intimacy is not just about holding other people accountable, babies. It's also about holding ourselves accountable. All right, this is part of not bypassing. I'm not, when you're talking about any type of relationship, we've already established that's between two imperfect people. All right. And as long as there are imperfections, there are things we need to reflect onto in the roles that we play, the actions that we take and things of that sort. We have to take accountability. All right. Nobody's perfect. And again, no one's expecting you to be perfect. They are saying, but you are accountable for your actions. All right. I'm hearing what you do and what you don't do. Okay. That's interesting. The bell on my desk just moved, and there's nothing touching it. All right, let's keep it moving. Stop protecting yourself from connection. Most people do not reject intimacy. They protect themselves from it. Protection often looks like overthinking instead of feeling, analyzing instead of engaging, staying busy instead of being present. Emotional withdrawal, controlling outcomes, perfectionism, fantasy, or detachment, or even excessive independence. Why this matters for intimacy. Protection splits you into two selves: the socially managed self and the emotionally withheld self. Intimacy requires one integrated self. That's why they had me refer to the internal gridlock series, because you need to bring those versions of yourself, those pieces of yourself back and reintegrate them in. That's significant for someone. I'm not sure who, but they had me bring that up again for a reason. All right. Protection creates fragmentation. That is that internal gridlock. That is that identity fracture as a survival mechanism. All right. But yes, protection creates fragmentation, which prevents being fully known. Why? Because you are fragmented. You're not in coherence. You are not in your wholeness. You cannot be fully known when you have these different fragments. All right. Practice interrupting protection. When you notice these patterns, pause. Identify what you are doing to reduce emotional exposure and do one small opposite action. For example, say one honest sentence instead of filtering. I'm actually feeling overwhelmed right now. Stay 1 minute longer in the conversation instead of leaving early. Admit uncertainty instead of hiding it. I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. Ask instead of assuming. Can you tell me more about what you meant? And remain present instead of escaping internally. Notice the urge to disconnect and stay anyway. You do not remove protection first. You override it through behavior. Now, I know I had said in a previous video, and they stand by this, that when you think of intimacy, if you just think of sex, I think I have more than established through these various parts that it is more than that. Although that is a part of intimacy and that can be a way to express intimacy. But babies, they want me to say, if you listened to that series I put together on fully embodying your sexuality, and you're seeing some similarities between this and that, they're saying yes, there is overlap there. So, and some of you who have been sticking with the series that I've been creating lately, kudos to you if you've been doing that, because I've been covering a lot and going deep into some of these topics. But they're saying some of you are really starting to see the connections between them. And they're saying, yes, they want, if that is coming to mind for you while you're listening to these things, they want you to be making those connections. They want to remind you everything is energy. These things are really interconnected in various ways. But they also want me to note for you that if you've been making those connections, they want me to point out that the order in which I have been addressing things has been very strategic. And maybe you are picking up on how one thing kind of builds off the other or leads naturally into the next topic. They're saying, yes, the order in which I cover topics is very strategic. I don't tend to jump around too much. There is a and there is an intentional flow. Thank you. Stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is often avoidance in disguise. People wait to feel safe, healed, confident, certain, and fully prepared. That moment rarely comes. And I can tell you from personal experience, babies, that is so true. That moment rarely comes. Why this matters for intimacy. Waiting creates a delay loop. All right. And that delay, it creates a delay loop where emotional truth is understood but never expressed. So the relationship never actually becomes real. You're just in the loop and looping, just doing this over and over and over and over and over again. All right. At some point, you just got to say, fuck it, and just go for it. Yeah, I'll own that. I've been honest about that before. Babies, if I waited to feel ready, this channel would not exist. All right. I've talked about how nervous I was for my first video. All right. I've been upfront about that. I wasn't ready for that, and I still did it. There's so many things I do before I feel ready. It is not the criteria you think it is. Do it scared. Do it scared. Do it scared at least once, just so that you can prove to yourself that you can just get to the other side. It doesn't need to be pretty. All right? There's a reason I don't watch that first video again. I know what it's going to be like. I know how it's going to energetically feel to me. But you know what? That's where I started. And that was an honest representation of where I was when I started. I honor that. Doesn't mean I go back and relive it, but I honor that. And you know what? We are miles away now from where I started with that. Okay? Get the first one under your belt. Prove to yourself you can do it, that you can survive it. Okay? Intimacy only forms through exposure, not preparation. Practice acting before readiness. When hesitation appears, speak the simpler truth. For example, I actually feel nervous saying this, but ask the question without overthinking it. Can I check something with you? Express the need without refining it. I need some reassurance right now. And show up without waiting for confidence. For example, joining the conversation even while unsure. Confidence is not required for action. It is built through action. And I don't know how to put it any better or more clearly than that. You just sometimes have to do something before you fully feel ready. Just see how it goes. Even if it doesn't go the way you think it will or you want it to, you just learn and you adjust and you move forward. You try it again. You do it again. You just aim to be a little bit better than you were the previous time. Small efforts will add up. Okay? Stay instead of escaping. One of the biggest barriers to intimacy is not conflict. It is emotional departure. Again, it is emotional departure. People leave internally while still physically present. I had to repeat that because some of you needed the actual phrase. Because you've seen people do this, you've seen yourself do it, you just didn't know what to call it. Emotional departure. Think of it as lights are on, but no one's home type of deal, okay? All right, they escape through thinking, fixing, distraction, productivity, fantasy, and emotional shutdown. Why this matters for intimacy. Leaving internally creates partial presence, partial listening, and partial truth exchange. All right? The other person is no longer meeting you. They are meeting your absence. If you are not fully present, then they are meeting your absence. All right? Practice staying. When discomfort arises, notice the urge to leave mentally. Return attention to the present moment. Stay engaged without fixing or escaping. And continue listening even when uncertain. Stay in the present moment. Stay in your body. You will know because you will try to jump into your mind. That is your indicator. No. Pull yourself back in. Plant your feet. I'm hearing pinch yourself. Do something that pulls your attention from your mind to your body. Divert that shit right back in. You can do that. I have practiced this. I'm getting a hell of a lot better at this. Although I think I'm going to be tested on that soon. Because it's, yeah, with the new relationships, that's going to be tested. Bring it. Let's see how far we've really come with that. All right. Ask, am I still here? Or have I left this moment? Then return. Return, babies. For example, in a tense conversation, instead of planning your response while the other person speaks, focus only on their last sentence and stay with it fully. Okay? Move from performance to presence. Performance is managing how you're seen. Presence is being in reality as you are. Why this matters for intimacy. Performance creates connection with an image of you. Presence creates connection with you. There is a difference. All right? If you are not standing in your authenticity and your truth, people are creating connection with an image of you. And again, they're saying it really is that simple. Some things are complex, some things are not. This one is not. Okay? You cannot be intimately known through a managed image. Why? Because that's not you. Practice removing performance. Notice when you are trying to appear competent, calm, healed, wise, and in control. Then intentionally speak more honestly than impressively. For example, I don't actually know what to say here. Allow pauses instead of filling space. Again, allow pauses instead of filling space. Admit uncertainty instead of hiding it, and respond naturally instead of strategically. Presence grows when performance drops. I don't know why they want me to share this, but they're being insistent I share this. I don't know if someone's trying to manifest meeting me. They're not saying that outright, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Maybe I'm going to run into somebody at some point who watches this channel. So that's kind of wild. Cool, but wild. But I'm going to tell you right now, because this is what they want me to share. If you meet me and you are trying to perform to impress me, I clock that shit very fast. Very fast. You will not snow me over like that. You really want me to they want me to tell you I am tapped in like that. I will know if you are performing instead of being present. I'll let you do whatever you want to do, but just know, like, I'm gonna clock your shit. Whether or not I decide to call you out on it or not is at my discretion, but somebody needs to hear that. I'll add on to that personally. I will be more impressed if you just show up as you authentically are. Even if the conversation is clunkier, not as smooth, even a little awkward, I would appreciate that more than if you tried to perform for me. Why? Because pretty much everyone out here does performance to a certain extent. Even I'm still deprogramming that. But I don't know. They're just very insistent I throw that out there. Alrighty, let's keep it moving. Yeah, they want me to say it again. Presence grows when performance drops. They want some of you. I'm just hearing the question. Aren't you sick of performing yet? Like, that's just what keeps coming through. Aren't you sick of performing yet? And I'm hearing some of you absolutely are. Okay. Build inner security instead of seeking certainty. Many people seek certainty because uncertainty feels unsafe. Certainty is an attempt to control outcomes. Inner security is the ability to remain steady without control. The less you depend on certainty, the less you need control. The less you need control, the more intimacy becomes possible. Why this matters for intimacy. Certainty seeking leads to control behaviors, reassurance loops, and emotional instability under ambiguity. But intimacy requires remaining open inside uncertainty. Practice self-trust. When you seek reassurance, pause before acting. Notice the fear underneath. Ask, can I handle this even without certainty. Choose one stabilizing action, breathing, grounding, or clarifying your thoughts, and proceed without guarantees. For example, instead of repeatedly texting someone for reassurance, pause and self-regulate before deciding whether a message is actually needed. You are not trying to eliminate uncertainty. You are building the capacity to stand inside it. If that example resonated with you, they want me to let you know that is often an indicator that you have codependency running in your energetic field. And I did a series on codependency. You can find it under playlists on my page if you are interested in exploring that more. Okay? Replace self-protection with self-trust. Control often comes from believing if I get hurt, I won't recover. If this relationship ends, I'll fall apart. Or if someone rejects me, I won't survive it. Why this matters for intimacy. This belief forces emotional withdrawal, overmanagement of outcomes, and fear-driven communication. Self-trust removes the need for control. And again, that's why we covered that in that trust series that I did. All right? You need to develop that self-trust. Practice trusting your capacity. When fear appears, acknowledge it without obeying it. Remind yourself you can recover from difficulty. For example, even if this goes badly, I will be okay. And take one small, honest action anyway. This could be saying what you actually feel instead of avoiding it. You are not preventing pain. You are proving you can move through it. That is the key. Proving you can move through it. That's why you need to act before you feel ready, to prove you can move through it. All right? They're saying do it once, do it again. Keep doing it. Allow relationships to teach you. Every relationship reveals what you cannot see alone. Why this matters for intimacy. Without reflection, triggers become reactions. Reactions become identity, and identity becomes defense. Intimacy requires converting reaction into insight. Practice turning reaction into insight. When triggered, pause immediately. Name the reaction internally. For example, I feel defensive right now. Ask, what is this showing me about myself? And respond after understanding, not before. Right? This is about teaching yourself to respond, not react. For example, if you feel ignored in a conversation, instead of withdrawing, notice whether that feeling connects to past experience of not being heard. Do not treat reactions as problems. Treat them as information. I've talked about that more in depth in previous parts of this series, okay? Learn to be affected. Many people express themselves, but do not allow themselves to be changed. Why this matters for intimacy. If nothing affects you, nothing enters you. Nothing connects to you, and nothing changes you. I talked about this a little more in the series on love, right? It is being unreachable, having that heart space so closed off that nothing gets through. All right? It's the same thing. That impacts intimacy. If you listened to part 2, when I said the question about the question that intimacy asks, I think it was, can I be here with you? And I got the channel that some of you felt that in your heart space, and your guidance was to let that actually flow through you, like expand and like move through your chest and really let that go as far as you could get that to flow. That was you practicing, learning how to be affected. And for some of you, that did actually help open up your heart space. You will know if that's for you or not. That's all they want me to say on that. All right. Intimacy requires mutual impact. It has to go both ways. All right. It's not just you connect to other people. People need to be able to connect to you. Energy must flow between the two people. Again, this doesn't have to be romantic. It can be platonic, it can be family, it can be community. All right? It really is about that connection. But that energy has to flow. There has to be mutual impact. Practice receiving impact. When someone offers feedback, care, disagreement, love, or support, do not immediately analyze it, minimize it, deflect it, or return it automatically. Instead, pause, let it land, and allow it to affect you before responding. For example, if someone says, I really care about you, don't immediately respond with logic or dismissal. Pause and actually feel the impact of being cared for. Intimacy requires being impacted, not just expressive. They want me to take that one step further. Babies, if you cannot allow yourself to be impacted, you cannot achieve true, genuine intimacy because you are not capable of receiving. You will create imbalance whether you mean to or not. Someone needs to understand the full impact of closing off their heart space. And I know it's really hard to open that space back up. All right. I'm not going to act like I've had the same experiences that everyone else has had. That's obviously not the case. But as someone who has had to open their heart space and went through that process, it's a very personal decision. Take your time with it. Again, I've talked about it before. I genuinely believe it is one of the most honest, most challenging, and most rewarding experiences that I have had on this journey. And that is the reason why I cannot go back to closing that heart space off. I just have to keep moving through this world the way that I see fit, refining my discernment on who is worthy of receiving, that loving energy, to what extent, and all of that. But someone's definitely having a hard time with that. And you're not being guided to rush that. But they also want me to remind you that you don't need to go all or nothing. In fact, they're really encouraging you to not do that. This is not about moving forward naive. It's about integrating those lessons, learning, refining that discernment. And for some of you, I'm going to be honest because it's coming through and they told me let it rip. I don't know if that statement means something to someone, let it rip. Part of the reason why you're not sure if you want to open your heart space or not is because whether you want to admit it to yourself, you have people around you who you can't trust to open that heart space up to. And that's actually where they say they want you to start. Because they're like, how are you going to open up your heart space if you're surrounded by people you don't even feel safe around? They're like, that does not work. I'm hearing that math does not math. So instead of you trying to figure out how to open up your heart space, I think your guidance is take a look at your environment. Start with your environment. Because you know what? Once I went through a whole ass clearing of my circle, that's actually when I really was able to make progress with that work. All right, I'm going to leave that there. Learn to receive. Receiving is often harder than giving. Giving feels safe. Receiving requires openness. Why this matters for intimacy. Refusing to receive creates imbalance, emotional isolation, and the inability to be supported. Practice receiving without earning. When you receive care, help, appreciation, or attention, do not dismiss it. Immediately reciprocate or downplay it. All right? Instead, accept it fully. Allow it to matter and let yourself be supported without earning it. For example, if someone compliments you, instead of saying, it wasn't a big deal, simply say, thank you, and let it land. Receiving completes connection. And they want me to call out, this is very similar to the previous section, but they said it is so important they had to be split out and talked about explicitly. They are similar, they are not the same, they are interconnected, and because of that, they had to be acknowledged separately. You must learn to receive. I'm hearing a lot of people who watch this content know to a certain extent that they overgive, they overextend. We have got, and I'm in that boat, all right? We have got to learn to receive, to have balanced relationships, healthy relationships moving forward. It is so important. Practice mutual engagement. Intimacy is not one-sided expression. It is shared attention. Why this matters for intimacy. Without mutuality, one person performs, one person consumes, and connection becomes uneven. Practice equal curiosity. In conversation, spend as much time understanding as expressing. Ask follow-up questions before replying with your own story. Stay curious instead of preparing your response, and notice when you shift into performance instead of connection. I'm getting that they want you to observe this in yourself, but also with others. If you know you have a tendency to do self-abandonment or self-erasure in relationships, and I want to be clear, this is not about blame or shame. It's not. We're not about that here. You need to check this in other people. You need to see if other people are willing to do this for you. Because this just feels like for some of you, when you actually try to communicate, when you try to express, when you try to participate, it's like the other person just like shuts you down or interrupts you, and you just let them. That is part of self-abandonment. That is part of self-erasure. All right. Babies, they want you to take up space. And I'm talking 10 toes down, or frankly, however many toes you got, right? Stand in your space. For some of you, I don't know who this is for, but some of you may really feel like you need to find your backbone again. Find your backbone. Take up that space. Don't, because again, this is about accountability. Yes, people I don't want to say they are, but if someone is doing this to you and you are allowing it, you need to be accountable for the part where you allow it and you are not correcting it. For some of you, that's where you need to stand in your truth. Babies, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you were not put here to be anyone's doormat. Stop letting people clean their boots off on you. File that under shit we not doing anymore, okay? Let me get back to this. So to wrap this up, the example is if someone shares a problem, resist immediately sharing your own similar story. Stay with theirs first. Mutuality is active behavior, not concept. For some of you, it is you doing this. For some of you, it is the other person doing this. Either way, they want you to clock that. And for some of you, that's why you really need to stay in the present moment, because some of you are absolutely missing this. And your ancestors, while they love you, are like, it is right in front of your face. Some of your ancestors are like, oh my God, these people are just playing in your face. They're in your face. This is why they really want you to have clear perception, because they really want you to see what is actually going on in your reality. Because I am hearing, for some of you, the fantasies are ending. And I'm hearing they're supposed to end. I'm hearing they've gone on long enough. See clearly on both ends, not just the other person, with you as well. Okay? Develop. It's a good idea. Develop flexibility in real time. Rigidity breaks connection. Flexibility sustains it. Why this matters for intimacy. Without flexibility in real time, you stay attached to expectations instead of reality. You stop responding to what is actually happening, and connection becomes rigid and breaks when things shift. Practice adapting to reality. When expectations fail, stop trying to restore the old expectation. Identify what is actually happening. Ask what is needed now and adjust behavior immediately. For example, if a conversation takes a different emotional direction than expected, don't force it back. Follow where it naturally goes. Do not resist reality. Respond to it. Babies, I am hearing if you stop trying to resist reality and you just let things kind of organically flow, some of you are going to get clarity really fast on certain things. Because it just feels like you are actively trying to control things. You are actively trying to mitigate things. You're trying to hold that equilibrium. You're trying to balance this out. I'm actually hearing a lot of you are trying to overcompensate for where, frankly, other people lack. And there is this they're showing me this hand reaching out and gently grabbing someone's shoulder and just being like, baby, please stop doing so much. Let reality show you what is actually happening here. Some of you just really just need to take a step back and let things unfold. Stop intervening. I'm hearing stop intervening, especially when it's not about you. Some of you keep intervening in someone else's business. You keep helping them. You keep stepping in. They're literally saying you're interjecting yourself. And they're like, you need to see what this person can actually do on their own. How do they handle things? This almost gives the energy of you coming in and cleaning up someone's trash. And they're like, you didn't even make this mess. Let this person handle their stuff. Some of you need to see how other people respond or react when you don't save them. Like some of you need to see how other people function when they don't get their way, when they're put under pressure, when they have to show what they're capable of doing. Some of you really need to see that. And I'm hearing some of you, if you do that willingly, again, that faster feedback, they'll show it to you. If you don't want to do that, some of you are going to end up in situations where you have to. Like where that's just going to be shown to you no matter what. There's not going to be anything you can do. They're going to take that shit right out of your control and they're going to let you see it because you need to see that. You need to make an informed based decision on somebody with that. That may be what turns you off. That may be that thing I channeled where it just gives you the ick. For some of you, that's going to be what shatters your illusions about certain people. And they're saying that if that ends up being you, it was well overdue. Alrighty, let's get back to it. Stop trying to eliminate tension. Tension is not failure. It is difference. Why this matters for intimacy. Eliminating tension too quickly often means suppressing truth and choosing comfort over reality. Hot damn. That's why some of you need to this is why some of you need to just pause, not fill space, 10 toes down, have your backbone. Some of you jump in too quick to eliminate tension. I know I'm on my shit because I just heard them say, knock that shit fully off. Fully off. Why? Because you jump in too fast, you suppress your truth, which is that self-abandonment, that is that self-erasure, and that is you choosing comfort over reality. Some of you need to sit and watch someone squirm and see how they react. Because I'm hearing you are going to see a side of them that you are like, oh my gosh. That is going to open your eyes. I ain't going to lie. This feels, I'm going to be honest. This is what I'm feeling. This is kind of what I'm being shown. That message, take it how it resonates, but because that could be for someone who's in a feminine energy. But I'm not going to lie, this feels like someone who identifies as male. And you're dealing with a female. I see blonde hair. Someone's going to lose their shit when you do this. And I'm hearing they were absolutely meant to. Because you needed to see who they were. Their mask is going to fall right the fuck off. All right, that is oddly specific. So I'm going to leave that there. All right. I'm hearing Virgo. Virgo. Someone could be a Virgo. Have Virgo placements. I don't normally pick up on that, but I was told to say Virgo. You can easily Google that to find out if your significant other is a Virgo. Alrighty. Anything else? Alrighty. Alright. Practice holding both truths. When opposing needs appear, do not rush to resolve them. Hold both perspectives as valid. Resist collapsing into one side and ask, how can both be honored? For example, I need space and I need connection can both be true at the same time. Don't force immediate resolution. All right, this is about balancing out the extremes, coming into the middle, bringing it to neutral. All right, intimacy is sustained tension without disconnection. All right, the goal is to stop swinging back and forth. All right, it's to stay in the middle, eliminate the tension between the two. Let go of superiority. Intimacy collapses when someone becomes above the other. Why this matters for intimacy. Superiority introduces hierarchy, which destroys equality of presence. Practice equality. When you become the expert, fixer, rescuer, or the authority, then ask another question instead of advising. Listen longer than necessary and remain human instead of positioned above. For example, instead of explaining what someone should do, ask what feels right for you right now. Replace hierarchy with presence. Babies, they just want me to throw out the question, how do you have genuine intimacy, genuine partnership, genuine love, genuine trust if you have hierarchy? Someone has to be looking down on someone else. It almost forces someone to be dominant and someone to be suppressed. That's imbalance in a whole fucking nutshell. You have to look at your partner as equal. If you are trying to dominate someone or someone is trying to dominate you, you have imbalance. You can't achieve any of this. And this is why both people need to be invested in intimacy, in embodying love, in having mutual trust. If you do not have these things, you have that hierarchy. You cannot have these things. You must come in as equals, imperfect equals who are actively choosing connection, choosing growth, and supporting each other as you keep moving through it. This is why those reorganizations are coming through, because those who are capable of even attempting this are going to be given the option, to give this a go, because they're making it clear as day most people cannot actually do this. Most people cannot. But you would also have to choose it. You can stay where you're at if you want to, but this just feels like options are just going to be start being making available to those who are capable of doing it. You'll still have to choose it though. All right, let's get back to it. Stop turning intimacy into a theory. Understanding is not transformation. Why this matters for intimacy. Without immediate application, insight stays conceptual instead of lived. Behavior defaults to old relational patterns under pressure, and connection does not actually change despite new understanding. Someone absolutely needs to hear this. If you are not embodying this, if you are not acting differently, they're saying all the insight in the world isn't going to do shit for you. And we're back to accountability. And they're like, if you took that personally, they said good, because that is for you. All right? If you are not acting as the version of yourself you are trying to get to, if you are not even attempting, They're saying it does nothing. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. If you are not embodying this, if you are not trying to make these changes, you will not go anywhere. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. All right? Be the change you want to see in your experience. It starts with you. Woo! All right. Practice immediate application. When you learn something, identify one behavior change immediately. Apply it in the next interaction and do not wait for full clarity. For example, if you realize you avoid expressing needs, immediately practice stating one small need that same day. Insight only matters when it changes behavior. And they just said point blank, period. And they said that is not up for debate. I'm hearing lie to yourself all you want. All right. Develop relational discipline. Again, intimacy is built through repetition. All right. Why this matters for intimacy? Without repetition, again, insight collapses under stress and patterns reset to protection. All right. They want me to be very clear. A lot of the work that I do, a lot of what I discuss is trying to get you out of survival mode, get you out of acting out of your wounds, out of your distortions. We are trying to get you out of survival mode, which is automatic protection mode. That is absolutely what we're trying to do here. But you need to meet your guides, your ancestors partway with that, or they cannot help you do that. All right? Practice daily actions. Each day, do at least one. Tell a truth you normally avoid. Ask a meaningful question. Could be something like, what's been on your minds lately? Listen without interrupting. Express a need clearly. Repair a misunderstanding quickly. Admit uncertainty. This could be something like, I'm not fully sure how I feel yet. Receive without deflecting and stay present in discomfort instead of escaping. Consistency builds intimacy. Repetition builds intimacy. All right? Build intimacy through ordinary life. Intimacy is not created in peak moments. Again, it is created in repetition. Why this matters for intimacy? Without repetition in normal life, trust never stabilizes and intimacy remains sporadic. Practice consistency. Focus on showing up, follow through, reliability, small conversations, daily honesty, and repair after rupture. Focus on these things in daily life. For example, checking in with someone consistently over weeks builds more intimacy than one deep conversation that is never followed up. Ordinary actions create deep connection over time. And babies, I don't know why I need to add this. I would hope this was implied, but we'll go here. Mean it sincerely. Mean it sincerely. If you ask someone about their day, be ready to listen. Be fully present. I'm hearing half-assing of any kind is not going to be rewarded and can actually do more damage in the end. And they actually want me to share an example about myself to prove that last point. I always ask questions sincerely. When I ask about your day, if you want to talk to me about your day for 20 minutes, I'm in. I ask the question, I'm invested, I want to know. You want to tell me all the details? I am going to sit here and I'm going to take in all these details, and I'll ask you follow-up questions when you're done if I feel called to. If you ask me how my day is and you start doing other shit, and I can, because again, energetically, I pick up on certain things. If I can feel you don't actually mean it, or I can pick up that you're not actually listening, I will straight up just stop talking. One, just because I'm interested to see if you'll notice I actually stopped talking. And second of all, I am not the type of person who's afraid to be like you clearly weren't listening. You don't care, so why would I keep answering your question? Like, don't ask me to share shit and then not engage. Not everyone's comfortable doing that. I'm perfectly fine with it. That's what they mean. Be sincere. Because to be honest, you do that to me a couple of times, I am just, first off, you'll be lucky if I still keep you around in my life after that. But, it's like I'm just going to give you short answers. Why? Because you seem to have the attention span of a squirrel. So I'm just going to adapt my answers to match what you seem to be capable of handling. And for me, that kills intimacy. That's the shit I don't forget. And then you have a hell of a task in front of you of getting me to get back to where I actually was with you. I'm not going to share the way I did before. You've proven you don't care. You don't deserve that. So I'm going to treat you appropriately. All right? They're saying someone needs to hear that example. All right? And that doesn't necessarily need to be about me, but someone needs to understand that. Someone needs to understand someone else's perspective that they may not be sharing at this time. You'll know if that's for you or not. All right. Develop emotional courage. Courage is action in the presence of fear. Why this matters for intimacy. Fear is always present in intimacy because outcomes are uncertain. Rejection is possible and truth is exposed. Practice acting through fear. When fear appears, do not wait for it to disappear and take one honest action anyway. Speak, ask, or stay present despite discomfort. For example, if you feel nervous about expressing something important, say it anyway with acknowledgement. This is hard for me to say, but, and then whatever it is. Fear is not a stop signal. It is a threshold. You can move through it. They want you to be brave and move through it. All right? Build capacity, not just better conditions. A central shift. Stop asking how to fix relationships. Start asking what capacity you are being asked to develop. Why this matters for intimacy. Changing external conditions does not remove internal limitations. Practice capacity building. When difficulty appears, ask, what is this asking me to become more capable of? What skill is being developed here? For example, conflict can lead to patience, honesty, and emotional regulation. Uncertainty can lead to trust, presence, and resilience. Disappointment can lead to acceptance, grief, and perspective. And distance can lead to communication, clarity, and courage. You are not trying to control conditions. You are building the capacity to remain intimate within them. The core practice: stay in reality. At the deepest level, intimacy is not achieved through understanding, emotional intensity, or ideal conditions. It is sustained through participation in reality. Why this matters for intimacy. Reality is what remains when fantasy ends, control fails, and performance drops. Intimacy only exists inside reality, not interpretation. Babies, this is where they want me to have you use your discernment, right? Some of you need to accept reality for what it is. All right? We talk about repair. We talk about all these things, how to invest, how to work in this. And they just need me to say, you need to stay in reality, accept reality as it is, and see it for what it is. Because some of you need to be reminded that some relationships are not healthy, right? We don't stay in things that are unhealthy, that really are beyond repair. We absolutely do not stay in abusive, manipulative, or I don't know why, but I'm hearing like warlike tactics. Can you explain that? Because what the fuck is that? Some of you need to Google what weaponization in relationships look like. Because this doesn't feel like physical, but this is like what emotional weaponization looks like. Somebody weaponizes affection. And that can be physical affection. This gives me the energy of like, if someone doesn't get their way, like it's almost like when someone doesn't get their way, they turn into like the nastiest version of themselves. Right? Like, why does it feel like someone withholds sex if they don't get their way? Somebody weaponizes the silent treatment. Someone needs to look at gaslighting again. someone's not physically abusive, but they're like verbally abusive. I'm not gonna lie, some of you need to look up psychological warfare. I'm not gonna lie, babies, I got the download that self-worth needs to be a topic I cover sooner rather than later. And I think I'm starting to get the feel for why. Because babies, I'm just getting the question, why do you feel like this is the best you can do? Why do you feel like this is the best you deserve? I'm going to take that offline. I'll talk to my team about that. All right. But yeah, use your discernment. Toxic is toxic. And sometimes you just have to see it for what it is and take appropriate actions. All right. And the reason why they want me to bring that up is it feels like someone is trying to make things work with someone. They're trying to build this environment and they're just saying, you are not going to be able to build what you're trying to build with this person. And so they want me to share with you quickly because I'm trying to wrap this message up. But the last person I had romantic interest in, I realized that was toxic. I walked away from it and I did all my healing on my own. And sometimes you have to do that. And sometimes that is the best way to do it because I'm not going to lie, while I don't tap into what that person is doing, I don't care. I wish him well, but he needs to absolutely stay away from me because I'm not interested. You know, my understanding is he is right where I left him. And that's okay. He can stay there. But I decided to grow. I decided to do my healing on my own. Had I stayed with that person and tried to make that work, I would likely still be where I was with that person. So some of you need to understand and recognize and accept what you're trying to do may not be possible in the situation that you're in, and that you may want to just let someone go with love and do what you need to do on your own. That may be the path that leads you to the best success. That's a very personalized decision. I will leave that right there. All right. Practice remaining present in reality. In every interaction, stay present when discomfort arises. Tell the truth, even when imperfect. Remain engaged after misunderstanding. Adapt when reality changes. Continue connection after idealization fades. Again, use your discernment there. And choose presence over avoidance repeatedly. Intimacy is not proven in peak moments. It is proven in your ability to stay connected to reality when reality becomes uncomfortable. That is the practice. That is the discipline. That is intimacy lived. So I know that was a lot of information to cover. So to make this simple, I am going to put the intimacy is a skill you build through repetition in the description box. They're saying for a lot of you, that'll cover the main basics and that'll get you started. So you'll find that there. You can take a screenshot of that. So that is going to be it for this message. That is going to be it for this series on intimacy. I will be back on Sunday to explore the topic of desire. Feel free to tune in with that if that resonates. If it doesn't, that's okay. You can leave it. The content will be there if you ever change your mind. All right. Take care of yourselves, beautiful beings, and until next time, bye.